significant projects that are happening in our community simultaneously right now. Today we pulled together 5 people who are involved in these projects and who can talk about the trends that are driving them. If you have a question today, please text it in to the number that's in your program. It's 910-264-8955. Please make sure you include your name and table number in the text, and we'll get a microphone to as many people as possible so you can ask your question directly to the panel. First, I'd like to introduce our panelists. Next to me is Blake Frazier, who's Vice President of Sales at Farmville Morrissey Barefoot, which focuses on sales and marketing for new home communities. He works with Trask Land on several projects, and today he's mainly going to talk about the Blake Farm development in Pender County. Next to him is Lillian Jones, who's Vice President of Operations for the River Lights community in Wilmington. Next to her is Richard Nort, Vice President of Acme Smoked Fish Corporation, who will give a business perspective on initiatives underway in our community to attract more employers and jobs. Next to him is Hill Rogers, the broker in charge of Cameron Management. He'll mainly be talking today about the Point at Barclay and nearby developments. And on the end is Ed Wolverton, President of Wilmington Downtown Incorporated, who will mainly talk today about the area where we are right now, the northern riverfront of downtown. If we could please have a round of applause for our panel. So I'd like to start off by having each of the panelists take 3 or 4 minutes to give a quick overview of their project, and then we'll get into some more specific questions. So if we want to start off with Blake. With Blake Farm, which I don't believe that was named after him.
Yeah, you're not lucky enough to hear from somebody who's important enough to have a community named after him. Sorry to say. But just as a quick introduction, as Rob said before, my name is Blake Frazier, Vice President of Sales at Farmville Morrissey Barefoot. And as a firm, we offer turnkey marketing solutions to master developers and builders focused 100% on new home sales. In addition to other projects that we have in the area, we're proud to partner with the Trask family, Trask Land Company on 4 projects. We're mostly be talking about Blake Farm this morning, but most of you are familiar with Autumn Hall, Eastwood Road, the Russell Beach Corridor, Poplar Branch in Surf City, as well as a brand new community, the Villages of Old Point, Country Club Road in Hampstead. So a lot going on in the area in addition to Blake Farm. I don't know if Rayford asked me to do this, or he has a trip, he's out of town. I don't know if he was out of town on purpose before or after he was asked to speak to 650 people, but I'm happy to be here to share their vision. So real quick, why is Blake Farm the next big thing, or among the next big thing? Well, just over 1,300 acres, Blake Farm is among the largest master plan communities ever to be proposed for Pender County. The scope and size of the development, along with the cutting edge, sustainability and land use, make this a tremendous project to work on for years to come. On the first slide, the location. For those of you who aren't familiar, Blake Farm is located along the Highway 17 corridor, just over 2 miles from the New Hanover County, Pender County line. So if you're familiar with that kind of that micro area as you're heading north up Highway 17 from Wilmington, the Scotts Hill Loop area, Sidbury Road's on your left. There's a little church that's right there. That corridor is Blake Farm. So no, Blake Farm was not named after, or I was not named after Blake Farm. It's the Blake family who had a working farm there years prior. Anybody's in the room is familiar with that. That's the genesis of the name. So along the location on the main artery of 17, it's got tremendous access to Highway 140. And we feel like that's a great benefit for travel among Wilmington of ease, and of course for travel outside of the area as well, both to have our residents and visitors get out of the town, and also as folks are coming into town. It's just a great location. Your retail entertainment centers of Mayfair and Porter's Neck are super convenient. Medical facilities are right there. Waterways, beaches, salt marshes, all the things that attract folks to our area as a whole are also are readily accessible for our family buyers. Topsail School District is a nice plus as well.
All right.
Next slide. detail, but Blake Farm is based on, or it will be based on 4 main concepts that we're trying to achieve. The first is environmentally sustainable land use. That's kind of an overarching theme. For those of you who have been through or are familiar with the development of Autumn Hall, you're going to recognize a lot of the same concepts within Blake Farm, such as the tree save mandate, created use of green space, albeit at a much lower price point, which we'll talk about here later, but you're going to recognize a lot of the same themes. The second, farm to table fresh garden goods. Again, harking back to what the original use of the land was. You'll see community gardens planned throughout Blake Farm. The third being an outdoor integrated lifestyle. This will be reflected not only in the home offerings and plans, but as well as the amenity packages that you'll see in Blake Farm. And then the fourth is Cape Fear heritage architecture. Again, similar to Autumn Hall. We've worked very hard with our local architects and our builder team to incorporate these unique architectural features of our region, being sensitive to a price point, deep porches and overhangs, thoughtful outdoor spaces, and some of the prevalent details that you'll see throughout Blake Farm. So to wrap up and kind of give you some facts and figures here, what's currently proposed and planned for Blake Farm over the next several years. Of course, market conditions will dictate how this all plans out, but just in a broad scope, the grand plan, 1,800 single-family detached homes. Our current price projections, high 2s to probably the low to mid 4s is kind of where we're targeting right now, with the sizes over 1,600 square feet to about 3,000 plus. That's the residential component. 300,000 square feet of retail is planned for the front there. 240 multifamily market rent apartment homes, 100 multifamily senior homes, 50 to 75 boutique hotel event facility. One thing that's really exciting is a partnership with the YMCA. Phase 1 includes some soccer fields and an event pavilion. Phase 2 is a larger facility that pending some fundraising, but we're very excited to have the YMCA be part of Blake Farm. Our amenities out of the get-go include a pool amenity, a full outdoor kitchen, walking, biking trails, a separate e-ped trail, fishing, kayaking, community gardens, and a community amphitheater for weddings and concerts for the community. We feel like there's significant demand in this section of the Wilmington area. The northern New Hanover County, southern Pender County kind of corridor right there is convenient to everything. And we feel like we can have a very unique lifestyle at a pretty good price point. Development work is already underway. It's hard to see from the road, but as you get back into the property, we have begun work. Our goal, right? Our goal is to have lots on the ground for our builder team the first quarter of next year. We're working very hard toward that. With delivered homes, families moving into Blake Farm and enjoying the lifestyle about this time next year. The immediate phase, the first phase we'll offer about 100 families will be able to move in that immediate first phase. And those 100 homes will be spread throughout that price and size band that we talked about before. And we're working on finalizing our builder team. We've identified our builder team. We still have a few things to finalize with that, so I won't necessarily share that right now. And we can talk about our target market and who we're going for more probably in the question and answer session to move things along. And I will say blakefarm.com is up and running if anybody needs some more information on the project. And we'll keep you updated as delivery date comes closer.
Thank you. So Olivia's next with talk about River Lights, which is, I understand, the largest development happening in the city.
Yes, sounds very similar. Rayford and I meet probably once a month and compare notes. It's actually a very friendly competition because it's interesting to hear what Blake Farm has going on. And Bill and I have met several times. It's exciting. I've lived in Wilmington over 25 years, and if you look around, to me it's tremendous what's going on. It's exciting. I think the city and the county are doing a great job in planning and preparing for this. Newland Communities bought this piece of property. It's 1,400 acres on the river. About 10 years ago, actually, from the Camerons, we had bought a piece of property in Chapel Hill called Briar Chapel from them then, and we went through a 2-year envisioning process. We're very thoughtful, methodical about how a community lives. We want it to be a sense of place. And as we were going through that process, we decided to excavate and line a 40-acre lake, reroute 3 miles of river road. And about that time, the economy started downturning. We went through the annexation process. I get asked a lot why we annexed. 2 main reasons was when we rerouted 3 miles of river road, we wanted to be able to have the road irrigated, landscaped, and beautify it. And also we wanted a little denser zoning than was allowed then by the county. The county's changing some of those codes and going through a comprehensive plan right now. But it was put on hold, the project was put on hold around 2010 because the economy did not come back. And we had, at that time, bought another piece of property in Raleigh. Raleigh was a little stronger. One thing that's different regarding this piece of property and what Newland does, we're headquartered out of California. We have 25 active projects going across the country right now. This is a smaller market for Newland. We're usually in cities that are driven by job growth, tremendous job growth, and we usually locate or buy property 2,000 plus acres outside, 20 miles outside of a large metropolitan area. This is considered an infill development for us. It's the largest undeveloped tract in New Hanover County. It's exciting. It's very fast-paced. There's a lot of moving pieces to it. Our team that's been working with us, from our architect, engineer, our consultants, have been tremendous. We've got a great internal team, other team members who fly in to help us in the planning. But our entitlement map is up right now, and we are under a development agreement with the city. So we already have established zoning and what we could build. We're entitled to build 2,700 homes, 1 million square feet of retail commercial, although we'll probably only build about 250 to 300,000. We'll be more of a local tenant mix, niche market. We have 8 builders under contract. Recently announced was Del Webb. We were very excited to get the Del Webb product here. We have a relationship with Pulte on other projects. It makes sense, but this will be the first Del Webb that we've partnered with them on, and we're very excited about that. It's going to be 540 lots on the northern piece of the property. As you're looking at the map, it's the left side of the property. And they will get started within the next week. Marina Village is, as Newland has considered that as an amenity to the development. It's a marina, commercial, retail, and it's, as it says, mixed use. We have a developer that's building a mixed-use building, about 25,000 square feet. We've committed to the entire first floor. That'll be our welcome center, where we introduce. We will sell the community. The builders will be responsible for selling their homes. We feel like they do that better than we could. We are working real hard at the tenant mix. We will have 3 restaurants there from day one. Day one is in the fall. We plan on grand opening next fall. Model road homes will be ready November timeframe, starting off with events. We'll be very event driven. We have an event coordinator that'll be kicking off events starting in November. We'll have some pre-sale events before then. We've been out in the community trying to meet with the real estate community and keep them informed of what's going on. We're very methodical with how we conduct our marketing, and our website just went live, riverlightsliving.com, and the builders are all listed on there. If you'd like to see who the builders are, see their homes. We will open with phase 1 opening around 270,000 to 520,000. We're very segmented with different size lots, different size homes, different type of product. We build for different types of buyers. So we're excited to be in the community, and excited to let everyone start seeing what River Lights can be. Hopefully you saw a little of that with River Road. Also, I'll mention we have a school site, designated school site. We've donated a fire station site. And so we're building a mini city. A lot of people ask me to kind of compare it to what it is. We're really not a Mayfair. We're really not a Lamball. We are mostly residential with niche retail commercial ingrained in the community.
Thank you. Next up is Richard with Acme Smoked Fish, and just to preempt his comments, we wanted to have a representative from industry on this panel. Obviously, one of the biggest issues our community faces is creating more jobs for all the people who are coming into all the new homes we're building. And Richard and Ackman Fish really are a great case study for our communities. This was a company based in New York that was looking at many different locations for a significant new facility. So we wanted Richard to be able to give a true business perspective on how that process happened.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having us this morning. You know, this is a pretty big event for us locally. You know, we've partnered with a lot of the people in this room since coming to the North Carolina market. Additionally, I'd like to thank the panelists because I think this is a very good mix of individuals, starting with families, and then looking at the industrial sector as to creating jobs, people that will be able to work here, live here, support our communities. But you know, we started this venture about 3 years ago. We looked at 11 different locations from as far north as Providence, Rhode Island, to as far south as Savannah, Georgia. We ultimately wound up with a site, with 2 sites actually in Virginia, and then the Commerce Park in Pender County. We were drawn to the Commerce Park by Duke Energy and our site search consultants. And we looked at this location, and we looked at it very, very closely. It bordered primarily between New Hanover County and Pender County. Our facility is actually in Pender County. But you know, this is about really understanding, you know, what drives jobs and what helps create new companies and attracts companies to come to this area. It wasn't about incentives. Okay, people say, you know, you're in the fish business, you're in the seafood business. I keep telling them, we're not in the seafood business, we're in the people business. We need people to support our company. We need good quality workforce individuals. And that's what we saw in the Wilmington, North Carolina marketplace. We saw that we had Cape Fear Community College, the UNCW, as the driving force for education and helping to develop a workforce that would sustain our business, not just today, or in 3 to 5 years, but looking out 20 years from now, where our business is going to be. It took a great level of cooperation amongst New Hanover County and Pender County. There were some agreements on waste hauling and things of that nature, which significantly helped our economic situation with our business, which is a plus. And obviously, looking at a site from a company perspective, it's very important to look at the infrastructure. You know, we looked at this location, we looked at the ease of in and out from New York through ILM. We looked at our seafood coming in from Chile to the port of Wilmington. You know, this was very, very instrumental in the dynamics and the demographics of this area for us making the decision to settle here in North Carolina. Pender County has invested almost $35 million so far in the park with new roads, infrastructure with wastewater treatment. There was a water treatment facility there as well that was currently providing Pender County with access. But additionally, the projects that have come out of us coming to Pender County have been new fire stations on 421. You know, we've helped the county improve their image. We want to try to continue to foster the economic growth of the county. But not only Pender County, we want to help foster the growth of New Hanover County as well, in Brunswick County. Our employee population is probably a broad mix of, you know, 30% Brunswick, 30% Pender, 30% New Hanover, and then a balance from the outlying counties. But we now have a second tenant that is building in the park. Empire Distributors will be opening soon in a 200,000 plus square foot distribution facility. I know that there is some conversations confidentially for other companies that may be interested in the park. And ultimately, the sale of us coming to North Carolina was the Wilmington Business Development Organization. They held our hand. You know, they held our hand. The commissioners from from Pender County, flew to New York. They courted us. They explained to us what the dynamics were of coming to Pender County and what was offered here locally. And I have to tell you, they still hold our hands today in this process. We are up to about 140 employees in our facility, and we are so proud that the product that we're manufacturing is being manufactured here in North Carolina. And we had a little bit of a sample put out for everyone to try today, and hopefully we can entice people to continue to purchase our products. But more importantly, it's about the dynamics of the political environment of understanding what needs to happen to bring a company to the area. You know, it's not about money all the time, it's not about economics, it's about the right location. And it's about the workforce and the people that you can bring to your company, who hopefully in a 5-year time period, you're celebrating their 50th anniversary with your organization, and you're having celebrations of the business continuing to grow.
Thank you. Next up is Hill Rogers to talk about the Barclay development.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Richard. We're glad you're here. I'm here to talk on behalf of Cameron Properties Land Company and the property that they have primarily centered around 17th Street, Independence Boulevard, Shipyard Boulevard. About 550 to 600 acres, smack dab in the middle of Midtown, close to the hospital, close to the NCW, the ports. Everybody kind of knows where it is. It's sort of, I guess before I talk about what we're underway with now, it's probably good to sort of rewind the tape and give you a little history lesson, which, you know, if you've been here a long time or you're a local, you're familiar with all this. But, you know, back in the mid-'80s, my contemporaries, I'm 43, so guys that I grew up with, and I'm not from here, but used to tell me, yeah, if you went down Independence Boulevard, which stopped at Shipyard, if you went down 17th Street and stopped at Shipyard, they said, you know, the other side of Shipyard was the end of the universe. And, well, of course, they still rode on the end of the universe in their pickup trucks and their four-wheelers and rode to Cape Fear Academy to go to school instead of going to Shipyard and College Road. But be that as it may, late 80s, early 90s, Independence Boulevard was extended through to Carolina Beach Road, South 17th Street was punched through to College Road, and really opened up some of this property. And again, I may miss some details or some dates, but I'm trying to summarize. About that same time, a growing CRO company called PPD wanted to build a tower downtown. And for whatever reason, they were denied, it didn't happen. And you know, Mr. Cameron, Bruce Cameron, who's passed away a few years, had the foresight and vision. He reached out to PPD and said, you know, don't leave Wilmington, we need your jobs, we'll build you a building. And he built them a campus at 17th Street in Independence, which is now what we call Barclay Center. Our friends at the hospital leased Building 1, the old PPD 1 building. PPD, as you know, of course, is now downtown. But kind of even, and I'm sorry if I ramble and digress, I don't do this every day for a living. But Google Earth is just a tremendous thing, and I don't know what we did, you know, in real estate without it, but you know, now everybody uses it religiously, even people who aren't in real estate use it. And if you type in Wilmington on Google Earth, you know, the globe spins and it comes down, and you know, you have a 10,000 foot viewpoint, and you see rooftops and street networks and whatnot. And you know, if you're looking at Wilmington, you get the ocean to the right, which is to the east, and the river on the left. And Wilmington's, New Hanover County's pie shaped, and you see big green areas out in Brunswick County and green up north, Lake Farms and Pender County. And if you kind of zoom in further, you'll go, what's that land doing in the center of Wilmington? It's just all green. Is it a nuclear waste dump? Is it a wetland? I can say no, it's not a wetland. And it all kind of comes back to Mr. Cameron, and he said no a lot. You can ask my good friend Sandy Wood or other people. Now, he didn't say no to Newland, but he said no a lot. But, so kind of where we are today after PPD, the PPD campus was developed, and that's sort of the mid-'90s. The Cameron Art, kind of sequentially and concurrently, Cameron Art Museum was developed, Barclay Commons, Barclay Place Apartments, Iron Gate Drive and Ashton Drive, and the office developments around there. Verizon Wireless came in 2004 for 1,200 jobs, 150,000 foot building. Had some infill development, things were clicking along. Then 08, 09, 2010, the recession hits, everybody pulls back. Fortunately, we were not out ahead of our skis, so we maintained and we're fine. And started ramping back up. Really started working on some zoning and entitlement issues 4 or 5 years ago, and broke ground last year, if you'll go back to the main slide once more, we started, and I apologize that I didn't have a slide for the Forks, but Forks Barclay was our first project, and it's a 124 unit subdivision. All the horizontal infrastructure is complete. Trust Builder Group, we're building homes there, townhomes and single family homes. Townhomes will range low 300s to mid 300s, single family from mid 300s to mid 400s. And then we, across the street, we have the Point at Barclay, which is a retail project. And I don't know if you've driven by there in the last 10 days, but about 10, 14 days ago, the crane was on site, and about 5 or 6 days ago, the tilt-up concrete was going up on the movie theater. So the Point is a 34-acre development anchored by a 14-screen movie theater. The owner-operators of the movie theater, Stone Theaters, prior to their Stone Theaters company, they used to have a company called Consolidated. They sold that to Regal. Anyway, long story short, is Consolidated Theaters was the cinema in Mayfair. They sold it to Regal. So Stone knows Wilmington, knows the market, and so it made our comfort level with them much easier. We're partnered on this project with Collett Associates out of Charlotte. All they do is retail, and this will be, when completed, 250,000 square feet, kind of entertainment, dining destinations, some small shop retail, and also a grocery anchored center. And behind that, and contiguous to the site, we'll have Element Barclay Apartments, which the first phase will be a 258-unit luxury apartments, walkable to the retail community. Also, you've got the Forks across the street that's walkable. So, and we've got a lot more to come. And what will come of it exactly, nobody really knows. Kind of to Livian's point, we're sort of building a city within a city. We're trying to create a brand. We're using the Barclay name. We've got logos. We're going to have signage and identity so that when you're driving down Independence Boulevard, 17th Street, Shipyard, you're going to know that you've arrived. Okay, this area is different. But much like when you're driving down Eastwood Road, or for Autumn Hall, you kind of you sense that it's different, or Landfall, you sense that it's different. It's just a nicer look at the medians and the sides of the roads, and we want to do that. That's kind of about it. But we're excited about it, and there's more to come. If I had to, you know, what's similar, my vision of it, what could it be? I'd say North Hills and Raleigh. We got to crawl before we can walk. You're not going to see a 17, 18-story office building tomorrow, but that's what it can be, and hopefully that's what it will be.
Good, thank you. Ed, if you could take us through any minor events that might be happening in where we're sitting right now.
Okay, I'm going to stand just to stretch a little bit. So when Rob asked me to come and talk about this, I really put a lot of time and effort into thinking, well, what's the next big thing in 5 years for downtown? And so he had to dial me back a little bit. So no, what right now? So then of course I jumped ahead again and said, well, we don't have one big thing. I'm going to focus on 3 big things today. So first, talking about North Downtown, the area we're sitting now, whether we want to brand it as something as Upper Downtown or NoDo, I don't know what that is. But just to give you a reference point, we're right here in the convention center, and we'll see, and we also have PPD headquarters here, so here's PPD for you on this little map that the city gave us. The convention center, of course, where we're sitting right now, we'll give you that one, and then the 1898 Memorial up on 3rd Street, so you can get a reference point of where that is. And that'll help you kind of orient towards this map as we talk a little bit more about the projects. So let's bring in all the projects, and you can see what all is happening here in this North Downtown area. So Sawmill Point, just next to the Isabel Homes Bridge, 280 units, they'll be ready this fall. The North Waterfront Park, which you saw a little bit of information on as you came in today. I'm going to talk back to that in just a minute, so I'm going to skip over it for now. The Riverwalk extension is something that people need to realize that the city has partnered to do that, to extend the Riverwalk all the way to the Isabel Homes Bridge. It's now almost 2 miles worth of walking and biking path now that we can access, and it's a great amenity for us to have. Just to our right here, as you walk out the front door, our friends at Invesco are working on 2 restaurants that are going in. The pier's in place. Some of you may have started going to events on that pier now. You're going to see that become much more of an entertainment center. So that's underway. The 2 restaurants will be open this fall. Pier 33 Apartments are supposed to open up, actually start construction later on this fall as well, somewhere north of 250 units, 250 to 300 units, and starting construction again this fall. The Embassy Suites Hotel, the Convention Center Hotel, the long-awaited Convention Center Hotel, that's under construction now, right next door to the Chamber of Commerce, between us and the Chamber of Commerce as we sit right here. The Indigo Hotel, which is planned catty corner across, kind of catty corner from the Nut Street door here as we walk out that way. So that is also in the works. Chuck Schoeniger and his group are working on that. Of course, Union Station just up the street. We don't want to forget about that big investment and what a big piece of educational infrastructure that is, but also harkening back to the railroad days that encompassed a lot of this downtown area. The Wilson's Fine Arts Center, I mean, what a game changer for downtown, right? A new 1,500-seat, high-quality venue, bringing in different kinds of acts that were not coming to Wilmington before. I trust many of you have been to shows there already. If you haven't, treat yourself and go. There's all kinds of things happening there. City Block Apartments, which really helped to kick off some of our activity along our Brooklyn Arts Center. 112 units. Talked to the developer yesterday. They are completely full. They have a waiting list right now. And we have things like the 3rd Street Bridge finally getting done and reopened. Yay, I hope some of you took that today. It's amazing how disruptive that can be, right? And this map is not even counting some of the other projects that have been announced, which includes the Aloft Hotel right next to the old convention center, if you want to use that term. Hampton Inn Hotel, which is also under construction, will be opening this fall next door to Bank of America right off 3rd on Gray Street. So that's kind of what's happening with our upper downtown. So I do want to hone in a little bit on the North Waterfront Park. I mentioned in a reference that's here. This is an amazing opportunity for our community. Great cities have great urban spaces. And this is going to be an opportunity for us to develop a great urban space for all of us to enjoy. A couple of years back, the city bought a 6.6 acre tract of land, and we've now been using it basically as a grass field for big events. Well, now we're thinking about what we can do more to really activate that and to make this space more usable. If you think about Grant Park in Chicago, Bryant Park in New York, or even Center City Park in Greensboro, there are great urban spaces that have this kind of great green space. You can also see as you look at this map, we're also thinking to the future. There are development sites that will be around this park. Whether they're retail, whether they're office, whether they're residential, whether they're hotel, we are integrating a park that could, in fact, attract more development. So it's not just a piece of grass that's used for people for whatever, it's also spurring development. There are all kinds of features in here. My slide didn't give me enough room to list everything, but I do know that there is some detailed information that was out in the lobby. I think I saw Amy Beatty with city staff here staffing that booth. We're also talking, City Council's talking about perhaps a bond issue this November to include several parks in the community, including North Waterfront Park, also the potential development of a soccer complex to add more fields for our youth, to have that ability to play. It would not be downtown, obviously. There's also a number of other parks that need some upgrades. So City Council is working through that issue now, and I expect that next month they'll make a final decision on whether to bring a bond referendum forward to the voters in November. If they do, I would expect that North Waterfront Park will be a big piece of that bond issue. And lastly, we heard a little bit about PPD. 22 years, 1994, doing some research I did. That's when the city and PPD could not come to terms with redeveloping what was then the Water Street deck for PPD corporate headquarters. Okay, how different would downtown be with that there? But it didn't happen. So here we are now 22 years later with a deal in place now to develop 170 unit residential place, 25,000 square feet of ground floor retail space to activate that area of Water Street, to also include a 409 space parking deck. It is a public-private partnership with experienced developers out of Chapel Hill. The development deal was approved this last Tuesday by City Council, so we really appreciate all of their work to get this deal put together, as well as the developers taking that old parking deck that was done in the 1960s as part of an urban renewal project and bring it to life to fit better in the urban fabric. And oh, by the way, we're going to reopen up Chestnut Street that's been closed since the 1960s. That's not going to connect all the way down to Water Street. The speed ramp, as I call it, on Gray Street, that will also be illuminated to give you a better vista onto Gray Street as well. You see there'll be pedestrian amenities along your left-hand side of that picture, on the Chestnut Street side. There'll be a nice plaza open space. There'll also be an elevated space right in the building that will be publicly accessible as well. So this is a big deal for us, and it's a big deal finally to get something going on this project that has been fallow for so long. As you see, it is public-private, $55 million from the private sector, city putting in about $20 million for the parking deck. The parking will be leased, a portion of the parking will be leased to the developer, but there will be also public parking that will be available with this. So 3 big things in downtown. I could probably talk about another 5 or 6 more, but in the essence of time, I'll stop right there and turn it back to Rob.
Thank you. So let's talk first about who is coming here and all the residential development that's taking place. You may have noticed 1 or 2 apartment communities popped up in our community in the past few years. Probably about 5, 6 years ago, there was a lack of apartment units, and that seems to be very quickly taken care of. Now we've got, just on the stage here, thousands of new single-family home sites that are going to be coming up, and lots of others in the community. So let's first, from a residential perspective, talk about who's coming here, and particularly from your community's perspective, who are you targeting? And some of my preliminary discussions to get ready for this, I was a little bit surprised that obviously retirees are a big focus, but I think, I guess potentially because it's on this side of the river, it's not as big of a focus as I would have guessed. So if somebody wants to kick it off talking about who's coming and how are you targeting folks for your communities?
I'll start off. Rob and I talked a lot about this in our discussions last week, and it's like, where are they coming from? Well, I think that we are targeting several different areas. Local buyers, we think that a lot of people will want to live on the river, enjoy the lifestyle, paddleboard, kayaking, walkability that we'll have to offer. Brunswick County, for those, I did it yesterday, stuck at the bridge, that deal with the bridge. We've had a lot of interest already from some of the communities in Brunswick County. There's been a lot of growth in Brunswick County. It's been one of the top growing counties, and the reason is they have land. And in Wilmington, you talk about the number of single-family homes that are going to be available. There has not been that amount of land and construction going on with new single-family. So I think you'll see a lot of the local buyers. You'll see a lot of in-state buyers. Right now, a lot of people's jobs are much more mobile than they used to be. They can choose to live where they'd like to live, and I think the coast is a great place to live. And then the Northeast buyer. We are targeting the Northeast buyer. If you look at all kind of articles, I guess Wilmington, if you may have seen in the Business Journal, just got named as one of the top places to retire, to live. We're getting a lot of press with that. And I think you have a combination of the buyer from the Northeast that has a child that goes to UNCW, or that has a family member that moves down here and wants to come. And then you have a lot of shows where we're pulling folks down because of the great quality of life that we have. So we do a lot of research. John Burns has done 3 studies for us. We use a lot of consultants. We're very data-driven. And we see this growth happening. Newland's very methodical in studying the growth and where they're coming from. So right now we're going through the closed state process of opening up the states, which is a registration process with other states in order to be able to market to those states. So we're encouraged. We kicked the project back off because of the growth and the expected growth in this area.
And to piggyback on what Lillian said, I think the overall health of the Wilmington area right now, for your move-up buyers, is strong. But really, one of the nice byproducts, and we have to keep an eye on it as developers and tell people, is just the health of the feeder markets. And so we're very lucky right now that Raleigh, Charlotte, your Northeast, your Northern Virginia areas, we have very healthy feeder markets, and it's kind of flows downhill as a trend. So that's where a lot of our buyers for this area are coming from. From some of our projects that we talked about earlier that go Hampstead north, a good segment of that is military driven. And so we kind of go with the ebbs and flows of the base. And as the base is back in a growth mode through its Marsoc division, you're seeing a lot of that trickle down to Hampstead North, where those family officers with families rather, do not wish to live right in Jacksonville. They want to get their families a little closer to all that the Wilmington area has to offer. So that plays a pretty key role in the northern developments in Pinner County as well.
And from our perspective at the Forks, again, it's really an infill site, and with everything that dried up from the development standpoint, both first from the sewer moratorium and then from the recession, and the lack of any new lots put on the ground, what I found pretty amazing, because and I'm not an expert in home building by any regard, but when I looked at our list, and we're now at probably 65 contracts and close to 48 or so, plus or minus. 80% of them are Wilmingtonians, and I was not expecting that. And of the next 20% tranche, half of that 20% were North Carolinians, either from Brunswick County or from Raleigh, and we only had 10% from up north. I'm constantly asked by people that I know, just, are you going to do something else? We love the Forks, or will you do something, in one of your other exceptions? So we're sort of seeing some pent-up demand locally. And I guess I'll touch on apartments, segue into that. There was no apartments built for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Of course, now there's a ton of them. I think a big chunk of that is university driven. What percentage of the chunk is 40, 50%. And so that's kind of a different market segment all of its own. But you've got, as a renter, and if your rent's going to be $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, or upwards of $2,000, depending on where you go, the amenity package you get as a renter, pool, fitness, game room, social room, whatever, you can't get that for an $1,800 a month mortgage. Not normally, and to get that mortgage, you've got to have a big down payment. So there's kind of a shift, and that's more from the younger side, the millennial crowd, but there's been a shift of mobility, flexibility, and amenities that apartments do offer that necessarily maybe they can't get in the home that in their price range.
Let's please do text in questions that you have. I'm going to ask one more, and then we'll start getting to audience questions. Let's talk a little bit about how the retail and office markets are doing. We've probably seen, this is probably mainly Hills area, we've probably seen a decent amount of progress in our area with Whole Foods coming in and a lot of other new retail folks that are considering us. Why don't you kind of take us through what's been happening recently and what you're seeing on the market now, particularly with a lot of these new communities starting to come out of the ground?
Yeah, and to dovetail, I guess, my apartment swan song, or whatever you want to call it. No retail happened for 4 or 5 years, and then banned Whole Foods on Oleander and Trader Joe's, and now Mayfair is starting to expand. There's again a lot of pent-up demand from the retailer side. Everybody's heard and read about the grocery wars, and Publix and Aldi and Lidl all coming into the market, and now Harris Teeter's owned by Kroger. I think they're all looking to position themselves to get here, to take advantage of the 50 or 60,000 people that are going to move to the area. And they don't really care about their competition, and they're all huge billion-dollar companies, so they can slug it out and fight it out. So it's going to be interesting to see if everybody wins, or if there's winners and losers. On the office side, all corporations are healthier now than they have been. They're still operating very lean, but there is growth in that market. It probably lags more than the other. Steve Anderson's done a fantastic job of filling a niche in that regard. And I think probably what office, the decision makers in the office space have come to realize is, well, if I'm downtown, then my employees got a gazillion places to eat. If I'm at Mayfair, they got a lot of places to eat. And so that's what we're trying to do at Barclay is provide the retail amenity package that then can support the office and the residential package. So,
Yeah, so downtown serves a slightly different niche. We really do have, and are bolstered by independently owned and operated shops, entrepreneurs, many times starting their first retail venture. But we are seeing a real tightening of our downtown market. We are down to just a handful of properties on Front Street, our primary retail corridor, as being available for retail right now. We're almost out of space on Front Street. When we think about some of the other trends that we're seeing, like on Princess Street, for instance, we've had a couple of law offices that have either consolidated or moved upstairs, opening up space for a new art gallery, Art in Bloom, a new little shop that opened. Blokes, who came in from the Mayfair area, has opened. So we're seeing that kind of transition from maybe an office space, a small office space, to a retail space. We also saw this in the last 6 months. I know a lot of people are going to be upset about this, but we had a tattoo parlor booth, and that was immediately filled. That's a joke there. So that was immediately, yeah, thank you. These are rib shop. So that was immediately filled by a gift shop that was in a small space in the old Wilmington City Market building. An entrepreneur started there, was doing great, wanted to expand. She immediately popped right into that space. We had another space that was a vape shop. They closed. We had a retailer from Raleigh, North Carolina Gifts. They immediately snapped up that space and opened. So we're seeing a transition from some office or maybe some not as desirable retail users to come into these downtown spaces and enhance the retails that we have. When you look to an Outdoor Equipped at the corner of Gray Street, homegrown retailer, started as a internet business, doing millions of dollars worth of sale, but they wanted a flagship store. They chose Grace in Front. Now we've got Reddick's opening up their second location, Coastal Urge across the street. So we are seeing a improvement of retail space in downtown. From an office perspective, downtown had the highest occupancy rates of the submarkets in the region. So we had the highest. So if we had a 25,000 square foot office user that came, that wanted to locate in downtown, we literally had no space to put them without building a new building, and that would have taken 1.5 years to 2 years. Well, Brian Eckel, Cape Fear Commercial steps up. They buy and develop what's now 101 North 3rd, 70,000 square feet. BB&T steps in as an anchor tenant. Oh, by the way, Dunkin' Donuts is open there too as a ground floor user. And now, while we did have a migration from BB&T from one building to the next, we now have about 30,000 square feet of office space that's now back on the market in downtown. So we can, in fact, backfill that space in a bigger way. So there is a domino effect that happens when things change in downtown, but it's often for a good thing.
Let's get to some audience questions. The first question from table 12. I'll have the microphone coming to you. And this is a question from Diane Burns, who I believe is our new director of UNCW Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So welcome, Diane.
Thank
Just want to make
you.
sure you know, by the way, business here always starts at 7:30 in the morning, usually with hundreds of us getting together for breakfast.
Oh, it's pretty impressive.
Welcome.
Well, I just moved down from Michigan, and I know in Michigan we have a lack of skilled construction talent, and with as much building as you have going on, I'm wondering if you are running into issues getting skilled trades and contractors to do all these projects.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, on the industrial side, we relatively had minimal problems getting talent. You know, we put about $16 million in for local companies, TA Woods, Elite Construction, they're all local individuals, but we did have to bring some out of state in, but there was really no problem with resources as far as finding the talent necessary to get our facility up in the timely manner in which we had proposed.
On a micro level, just an individual homes and home builders, one of the headwinds that we are facing, I'm sure that question will come, what are some of the headwinds, is labor. And so it's funny that we need to create jobs, yet also have a labor shortage at the same time. But with what we're, in our business right now, yeah, that's the ability to meet the goals and deadlines after we make the sales with the follow through, with framing crews, skilled labor, trim carpentry, things like that, that get a little more detailed. yeah, we are. I think everybody on the panel with that, absolutely, that's an issue.
We had a meeting not long ago. We partnered with the Home Builders Association, ABC Council, which is the Associated Builders Council, commercial contractors, subcontractors, and had a meeting with Cape Fear Community College in North Carolina, workplace, to talk about the disconnect and how to train labor, but also the entrepreneur side of people that are equipped but don't know how to start a company, and maybe have them mentor under other companies. But we're on the early stages of it, and based on everything that's going on, we see that there's definitely a shortage. We're hearing the builders and contractors, subcontractors talk about it. So it's something that we're trying to address, but it's definitely going to be a struggle in the next few years.
Next question is table 6, Jason Leland.
Good morning. This is really for Richard. My question was, you went through the transition of moving your business here. Did you get what was expected, promised, and then what are some of the good or bad things that you experienced since then that you would tell us to share with other folks looking at a site?
Yeah, I think the area and the move met our expectations. The one thing that we are dealing with now is a high attrition rate. We're going to, we originally started with 84 positions in our organization. We had over 1,800 applications for those 84 positions, which is a good thing. It gives you a lot to choose from, but the dynamics of the local market, I think we're still kind of developing our workforce. We've got a good baseline of about 75–80%. The balance is turning over. But other than that labor piece of it, and by the way, Green Resources, local organizations, been very instrumental with helping us achieve our labor pool and continuing to work through these issues. But overall, I think it's been a success story. We're at 45% capacity. We're manufacturing about 125,000 pounds of product a week now. So yeah, I think overall it's been a great success, and we've hit a couple of roadblocks, but like every company, you're going to have those situations. But it's been a very successful ride so far.
That's good to hear, because frankly, as a community, we're making some big investments in that 421 corridor. The New Hanover County Commission, of course, has expanded the water and sewer to go into that area. That's a big industrial growth area, and we really should appreciate what the County Commission has done making that happen, and our steps moving forward to get more activity along that corridor will be crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, the infrastructure is a critical part. If a company comes in and looks at a site and they don't have to worry about water, sewer, gas, fiber optics, and those kind of things, it's just a win-win. Then they have to concentrate on their business core. Kind of to my motto, focus on what you do best and stay focused on that one item. So it's very important that the counties understand about the infrastructure and how important it is to attract the businesses.
And by the way, that's one of the reasons we wanted to have Richard up here, and there's a table outside that New Hanover County has information. So, basically, tell me if I'm wrong, Richard, but basically the reason you're here is because years ago, Pender County made an investment along 421 in the Commerce Park, and now New Hanover County is doing a lot more on the New Hanover County side of 421. So that is, when we talk about the next big things, and I think, when I talk with each of the panelists, coming up to this, probably our biggest challenge in our community is creating more jobs, and that's one of the biggest things happening in our area is the continued development of 421.
Yeah, Pender County had a vision for this park 14 years ago, and we were the first staple tenant, and I think this is just going to continue to evolve and foster the growth of Pender Commerce Park, foster the growth of the 421 corridor, and help New Hanover and Pender counties continue to grow.
Next question from table 50, Rebecca.
Yeah, my name's Rebecca Carr, and I just first wanted to thank you guys all. I'm with Keller Williams Realty, and it's just great to learn about the projects that are going on in the community. But my question is for Hill. You didn't touch on what your dream timeline may be for your project and kind of when you would expect commercial properties to be available for investors.
Well, the movie theater is projected to be open January 17, and we'll have our first phase of retail, dovetailing that. There's a cinema green concept, and the two buildings right in front of the theater, they'll be open simultaneously with the theater. And then basically we'll do all of our horizontal infrastructure this summer and fall, and have building pads ready, and then as we lease up buildings, they'll come online, 4, 5, 6, 7 months later. I don't know if that totally answers your question,
Well, let's talk a little bit about challenges. One challenge we talked about obviously is just creating more jobs as more people come here. What other challenges do you see, especially if you're getting these large projects underway? I've got a list in my head, but I won't mention them to put any ideas in your heads. But what do you see as the biggest challenges, for your project and for our community coming up?
It's all easy, isn't it?
Wow. This is a touchy one. Permitting. Like utility permitting time. We develop across the country. We've busted our schedule twice, double the time of any other project. And it's been a struggle reporting that to my investors. But we're working with the government entities on that, and have developed an advisory council and board to try and offer suggestions and to figure out the processes, and if there's some things that we can do, our engineer can do to make it easier. So we're working through that, and hopefully our second, third, and fourth phase will go a little quicker.
That's why I joked goal with Vivian earlier. The permitting process, along with a lot of other unforeseen items. One of the big challenges of developing a really large project, and I'm not sure there's a whole lot you can do about this, it's just that from planning to getting it started is a long process. And then from start to seeing the end of it, is the world going to be in the same place? Our market factor is going to be in the same place when you start a project and you envision it, and you roll out that first phase, and then beyond that, you're taking your best guess as to what the public is going to want. And for example, we're talking about, I don't know how 300 million square feet. I think that's a big number. I don't know how much retail we're all combined up here talking about. What's retail going to look like in 20 years?
Yeah.
Are people even going to want to go to the store? It's a long way away. We talked about cell phones and internet. Are people going to shop at a store 20 years from now?
In bigger markets like Richmond, Charlotte, of course, New York, Chicago, Amazon has same day delivery. You don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
No, you'll continue to go to the restaurant. But it's to Blake's point, you can start when the economy's good, and you can finish when there's a recession.
I think from a downtown perspective, part of our challenge is we have to continue to tend the garden. It's easy to get caught up in the big sexy projects that are happening right now and they're exciting and they're really changing the face and transforming our community. But yet we have to continue to tend the garden. We have over 900 businesses in downtown. Most of those are small. We have to continue to work with those small entrepreneurs to nurture their business, to make sure they're doing well. We have to continue to work with our city in terms of cleanliness services that are being delivered to visitors and to workers and shoppers that are coming downtown. You have to have a place to park that's affordable when you come downtown. So we can't lose sight of all these other quality of life issues that affect the entire downtown environment. They are very much interrelated in downtown, as opposed to some places maybe there's a standalone piece to it, or they're all centrally owned and managed, so you can do some more decision making and implement things. But downtown, we have to often do things in a little more collaborative way, and our city's been great about providing some extra services in downtown, whether it's cleanliness pickup, it's some trash picks up at 2 o'clock in the morning, for instance. But yet we are seeing that we are a 24-hour center. We have things that need to be addressed in a much quicker fashion. So tending that garden, making sure that all these things are being addressed is important for us, and we can't lose sight of just, oh, look at the big new thing happening here. We have to continue to remember what got us here in the first place and to grow and nurture those. And by the way, we're doing it with the staff of 2. And a volunteer board of 37.
The question on table 60, question about downtown.
Hi, my name is Ben Moore.
Hi.
My name is Emily Elmore, and my husband and I own a plumbing business here. I moved here 3 years ago, and we have seen a tremendous amount of growth in just our 3 years of being here, especially in the downtown area on 4th Street. And my friends and I were all around the age of our early 30s, newly married, just starting some families. So my question for you, Ed, is in regards to the, looking at some of the other southeastern downtown areas like Savannah and Asheville and Charleston, for example, there does seem to be noticeably missing types of businesses from downtown. And this is just conversations amongst my friends, but looking at businesses like a CVS or Walgreens, a place where you could pop in and get sunscreen and a stick of gum, things like that. And also, we'd love to see it at Urban Outfitters. But my question to you is, how do you guys look at recruiting or engaging with businesses like that that seem to be missing from our downtown area compared to other areas I just mentioned?
Sure, well, that's a great question. We know there's some voids in the market for sure, especially from a convenience resale standpoint. Unfortunately, when you start talking with a lot of chains-owned stores in particular, they are very focused on demographics, and they come in and draw their half-mile circle and 1 mile circle, and they look at the household incomes, look at the number of people, and oftentimes we're not meeting that demographic threshold that they're looking for.
They're box checkers.
Yeah, they are box checkers. Add to that where, just some basic zoning things. Now, they're in place for a good reason, but for instance, you cannot add any new drive-throughs in the central business district of downtown anyway. So there's a couple of drive-throughs that were put in before that went in place. Think about BB&T Bank, but they can't be right up on the street. So you can do it sort of behind the building, but you can't have it. And that's a model that drugstores in particular really want. They want to be able to have the drive-through for convenience reasons. And so that's a little bit of a logistical challenge for some. But the other piece of this is, jumping back to the demographics, I think we've understood for a while that we have to improve the demographics. And we've had a very long-term strategy to grow more residences in downtown, because that will improve our demographics, that will help to support the businesses that are already here, but also attract the new ones. So we have put a lot of emphasis on the growth of the apartments and the residential units and the condominiums. And so that's going to be, it's more of an incremental strategy, but it is something that is building, as you see with all the apartments underway now, the condominium project that'll be it's certainly part of the Water Street Deck, River Place as it's called. So growing our demographics is a piece of that pie. We are seeing some interim steps as well. While we're not going to have a full service grocery store, Farm on Front is coming in. They've taken a space right across from the post office. There'll be a 6,000 square feet facility that'll have all kinds of prepared food, but also food you can take home and cook. Bakery, they want to have fish. So it will be more along the lines of a grocery store that can help fill that niche for downtown as well. So we'll have some of those interim steps as it goes forward, but we've got to continue to grow the number of residential people that are living in downtown.
Okay. We've got time for one more question. So before we let our panel go, I'd like each of them to address this. What is the one thing you would like to see happen in our community that would, one, either help your project or help our region overall? And by the way, I'm just bringing this on the ballot. I'm just prepping up for this question. So you want to take it first, Blake, and we'll go down the line?
Well, we hit it earlier. I mean, I think, and not that folks aren't out there trying their best, but just it is job creation. I mean, that's kind of a vague answer, but if you look at an area like a Charleston, yeah, like why is their growth so much different? And it just comes from larger jobs. We're very lucky that we live in a great spot that will always be attractive to folks who are mobile. So the folks who live in Raleigh and Charlotte, who can be anywhere. A lot of our Hill and I's contemporaries moved here because they could, not because they had to, or just more of a choice. Didn't necessarily need employment when they did, because they're mobile. So we always have that to hang our hat on. But until we kind of have an organic more growth from within, we're still going to be bound by our feeder markets. And so an unhealthy Raleigh, Charlotte northeast corridor would spell bad news for Wilmington, unless we kind of do some things from within. That would be.
Libby?
Agree. And the economic development in all of our communities is a focus because that's what drives our success. I think back, I've been here over 25 years, like I said, and at one point, the company I worked for went out of business, and luckily I went on 15 interviews and everybody wanted me to move to Charlotte or Raleigh. And luckily I was able to talk W.M. Jordan into locating in Wilmington and was able to stay. I've done everything I could to stay in this community. But I do think that it's not just our county conditions, it's really state. We did a chamber trip to Charleston last year, learned a lot of really good things, saw a lot of exciting things, but their state is much more progressive than we are, and hopefully we can change some of that. But we need to focus on the job growth because there's a lot of people who move here too from the north and don't want that growth. But in order for a good economic environment and for downtown to grow and for things to continue happening, we need that growth.
Richard?
I think it's more again about people. I'd like to see the local community colleges develop more course curriculum to deal with things. I mean, we're a specialty manufacturer. We use ammonia refrigeration, and there are no courses currently offered in the New Hanover or Pender County systems. The closest one is in Sampson County. But even those courses are not turning out the type of individuals that are necessary to foster this kind of technology in the refrigeration market. But I think it's still about developing people. We spoke about, or my colleagues up here spoke about the shortage of construction workers, and it's not just about construction workers. There has to be a broad mix of individuals who are the workers, the blue collars to the white collars. And I think it's very important to continue to focus on that because, new companies coming to the area, one of the key points they will look at is the labor market and what's available here for them to grow their organizations locally.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo more of the Blake and Libby, and to what Richard just said. I mean, we need from our industries, we need more people trained in carpentry and electricians and HVAC. But we are reliant on a net migration of net in-migration of retirees, more so than we are on Acme Smokefish coming here and creating 200 jobs, or Encino and Live Oak creating the jobs they've created. We're certainly blessed to have those types of fast-growing companies, and we're blessed that they want to be here. But we need more of that, and I don't have the magic pixie dust to tell you how we're going to make that happen. But I'd love for Rob's panel next year to be 5 panelists, and they're all big job producers or industry, whatever the case may be. That would be tremendous for our areas.
Well, I agree with that totally, and what other folks have said, and the numbers are staggering when you look at what's being projected right now. City of Wilmington has about 110,000 people right now. They're saying in 20 years we're going to have 175,000 people. That's a pretty robust growth rate. And I used the term ecosystem earlier, I think, and so we do have a big ecosystem just as a community and keeping that going. And I think we have been very fortunate over the last few years to really have some steady political leadership locally with city council and county commission. While they don't always agree on everything, even internally, they still have had a vision that they've brought and articulated forward and have been instrumental in bringing a number of activities forward. Conversely, we see things on the state level like the film grant program, the film credits going away. That had an impact on our community and certainly in our downtown. The loss of the historic preservation tax credits on the state level, again, another negative detriment. Whatever you're feeling on HB2, that's another issue that's out there. All of those things do impact us from the political side. So locally, we've been blessed. Statewide, we can, we're facing some challenges there. Now, the state did respond back. They did restore the film grant program. Not quite what we'd like it to, but certainly better than it was. The historic preservation tax credits was restored again. That's helpful, but we spent a lot of time, a lot of energy to have to insert ourselves into the state to make those help build the case for those, which we did, but that was energy and time and effort we could have invested elsewhere and has hurt us economically going forward, or certainly over the last couple of years. So we've got to continue to build that ecosystem, realizing that these external factors are sometimes beyond our control, and we have to manage and do the best we can going forward with all of this.
Thank you. Please have a round of applause for our panelists. I'd like to give our panelists reading assignments, and there's a new book by Charles Duhigg, who's the author of The Power of Habit, which is called Smarter, Faster, Better, which is about increasing your productivity, since all of them are at the outset of some very large projects. We hope this book will help. Thank you all again for coming. We'll see you in the fall.